Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Cloud Lunch and Learn sessions. My name is Hugo Borana, and today we have the first session of our security series with Bojan. Hello Bojan, how are you doing?
Hi, Hugo. I'm doing very well, thank you. Hope you and everyone else the same.
Okay, so what you are bringing to us today?
So I'm delighted to be invited to this important conversation that you're having around security. And I'm even more delighted to give you a glimpse into a next generation cloud native SIEM, so a security information and event management system, and share with you how we at Microsoft think about this important topic and how our views around it have evolved over the years, especially influenced by the trends we are seeing in the market. Hello also to everyone who's joining us in the meantime. My name is Bojan Magušić and I work with Microsoft as a cloud solution architect, focusing on security and compliance across our public cloud platform. And actually, my role is all about helping our partner ecosystem in building solutions that help keep pace with Microsoft's mission and with fulfilling the needs of enterprises and empowering every person on the planet to achieve more. But before we jump into it, I've thought it be wise to get a sense and a flavor from the audience who are joining us today as how much they're familiar with this topic. So why don't we start off with a few mentee questions? For those of you who haven't used it before, you can log on to mentee.com and enter the code 9266923 without spaces to get going. And in the meantime, let me switch over to Mentee. It's loading up here, and here we go. So that's 9266923 without spaces. And we got the first question on the screen. So the first question is, and let me just quickly minimize this. What comes to mind when you hear the word cybersecurity? Again, the code is 9266923, and you need to go to mentee.com. Okay, we have our first answer. Data breach is the word that comes to mind when you hear cybersecurity. Protection from threats, interesting. We are going to be talking later on how this can be used against threats. We also have attacks, word cloud. I love it. We also have data protection. We also have crackers. That's also very, very interesting. Haven't heard that one before. So we'll give it a couple more seconds. Phishing as well. Very, very important. I love how this word cloud is giving us all sorts of insights. Great answers. With that, let's go to the next question. The next question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge in cybersecurity today? We have a rising number of cyber attacks, security skills in short supply, and the last option, too many disconnected products. Okay, we have two front runners in the rising number of cyber attacks and security skills in short supply. Interesting. Do we have maybe more answers coming? It seems like we do have a stronger emphasis on security skills that are in short supply. And I believe this to be the biggest challenge in cybersecurity today as well. So with that, let me just quickly then switch gears so we can go back to our presentation for today. Great. I trust that everyone can see my slides in our new reality working from home. We're all our own IT specialists. I therefore especially appreciate the assist all of you in letting me know if you can't see my slides. And the topic of my presentation today is really about how we can leverage a next generation SIM system to protect our workloads against threats, whether those be cloud workloads, hybrid workloads, even on-premises workloads, and maybe even third-party cloud services. We don't operate in a vacuum, that's for sure. And after with the recent pandemic, this has really created a unique climate for most organizations. So what I would like to talk to you today is spend a little bit of time talking about the expanding digital estate to give you that foundational grounding around the challenges and the trends that we are seeing in the market. We can talk briefly about how security operations center teams, or SOC teams as they're called, operate. And there, I really want to touch on the traditional challenges these teams are facing and how that is applicable for them around positioning of the next generation cloud native SIM solutions. I do want to touch also on the integration with telemetry and data sources and the impact it has to the success of not only the SOC analysts, but also to the wider security organization. And talk a little bit about leveraging artificial intelligence, AI and machine learning, because as you can appreciate, a cloud native SIM is a very, very different solution compared to a traditional SIM tool. Finally, I want to give you a glimpse of a next generation cloud native SIM, and then I want to end on a high note with Q&A time permitting. So that's our agenda for today. Why don't we start with the expanding digital estate? Just to give you a sense of where we are headed. And for us, it's really about acknowledging the challenges that organizations are facing. Businesses and government entities are producing terabytes and terabytes of security relevant log data each day. And these volumes continue to increase over time. And when we look at this growth in data, is driven both by the digitization of business processes, as well as an explosion in the number of devices connected and smart devices being used in the enterprise. This all makes security and cybersecurity at its core a big data problem. And organizations are faced with this incredibly difficult task of trying to protect their digital estate, which is expanding, from ever-growing cyber threats, which we're going to touch upon later today. More closely, this is also tied to the mission of protecting organizations' information, which could be seen as a mission of the SOC team as well, the Security Operations Center. And protecting assets is becoming increasingly difficult. This is because we're seeing that the attack techniques, the frequency of cyber attacks, and their complexity are increasing, and they're evolving fast. So we see two trends, both of which are alarming. The first one is an increase in the overall frequency and number of cyber attacks reported, and the second one is increase in their complexity and or sophistication. And the security teams, the SOC teams, are charged with making sense of this data and spotting signs of an attack early on so they can respond appropriately. And these teams face a plethora of challenges. On this slide, we can see a couple of them. The main ones I hear from partners and customers I work with are that the threats continue to grow, both in complexity and volume, as we mentioned. So a typical attack might span different parts of an enterprise and cross various resource type. It might even start on premises. and go through an endpoint, maybe even spread to a cloud service and or a database involving multiple user accounts or even multiple tenants. The second we're seeing is alert fatigue. So SOC analysts see too many alerts from disconnected products. When we think about an enterprise company and big organizations, typically have dozens of security products, each producing a large volume of alerts. Now, in isolation, these products often have high false positive rates and a very poor response prioritization, which results in a deafening alert noise. So this means attacks fall through the cracks despite alerts being generated. And unfortunately, what I'm hearing is that the legacy SIEMs, so security information and event management tools, are functioning only as aggregators of that noise and don't increase the overall response capabilities of SOC teams. So the enterprise SOC teams need a way to integrate their security products to reduce the noise, but also prioritize alerts and enable investigation and hunting that can span across different data sets. The third one that I hear is that current solutions are not architected for today's demands. So legacy on-premises SIEMs do require powerful hardware and comprehensive maintenance that makes them expensive to operate. This is due to the storage and compute needs, which can increase dramatically, especially during an event, which is difficult for any company with an on-premises footprint to accommodate. The fourth one that we also, through the Menti questions, identified as the biggest challenge in cybersecurity today is there is a global shortage of security analysts and the security skills in the market. Depending on which research or which data set you look at, the need for skilled security professionals has greatly increased, and current supply cannot meet current or future demand. The recent report by the CSO magazine showed that this global talent shortage will increase to 2.5 million security jobs by 2021 alone. And so the question becomes is how can we tackle these challenges? One thing that I believe can help us is the power of the cloud. And the idea behind it is that the cloud can help us manage that complexity of the ever-expanding digital estate by simplifying and by both making security easier to manage, which in turn will allow the SOC teams to maximize their efficiency by freeing themselves of the IT maintenance-related work and helping them focus on security-related work so they can provide that true security value. I also would like to highlight that by using the cloud, we can leverage the large-scale intelligence available in the cloud and make it work for us. Here, I'm referring to the next generation of artificial intelligence and automation, which we can use to help us supercharge, if you would like, the work done by the SOC teams. And this is why I would like to take a hazardous guess is as to why we at Microsoft have and are reimagining the SIEM and the SOAR tool to leverage cloud native capabilities. And we are calling this solution Azure Sentinel. One factoid that you should be aware of is that Azure Sentinel was the first SIEM solution built into a major public cloud platform, providing intelligent security analytics at scale, which makes it very, very easy to collect security data across an entire organization, which can span across both devices, identity, applications, server, and even on premises and even third-party cloud. And it uses this power of AI to ensure that the SOC teams can identify real threats quickly. And since it's built on top of Microsoft's public cloud platform, which is Azure, it offers almost limitless cloud scale and speed. So it can scale automatically, making it suitable not only for big companies, but also for all companies, big and small. And one thing that Microsoft does to emphasize its relevance in this cybersecurity market is it spends over $1 billion each year on research and development to help organizations be more secure. And the investment that's being made enables companies that would like to digitally transform and strengthen their security posture without compromising productivity. And the way Microsoft does this is through three key pillars: operations, which means having world-class excellence in terms of public cloud infrastructure. The second key pillar is technology, providing enterprise-grade solutions to fulfill the needs of organizations. And the third key pillar is all around partnerships. So partnering, whether it be through the Microsoft Intelligent Security Associations, with peers in the market, inviting others to join so we can share our insights, and if you will, develop that thought leadership. What makes Microsoft also different to other cloud providers and even security providers is that we have over 3,500 dedicated cybersecurity professionals. And we also leverage something we call Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph, which is an intelligence informed by trillions of sources, which can help us make smarter decisions and help empower SOC teams to remediate threats faster. And when you think of Azure Sentinel as an implementation of this next generation cloud native SIEM, I want to share a couple of key takeaways with you. So Azure Sentinel has been purposefully engineered to address the SOC challenges we identified earlier by automatically scaling to meet the data collection and storage requirements for enterprises of any size. It also provides dashboards and user interfaces that are intuitive, which mean the analysts can use them, and it helps them streamline typical operations that we see inside of a security operations center. When we think about most traditional SIEM tools, they really started as on-premises solutions comprised of extensive hardware and software that supported both log ingestion and storage. But what we see is as the log ingestion and storage requirements increased, companies needed to buy larger hardware or distribute this workload even across multiple servers. So over the last years, several years, many vendors have reimagined their SIEMs to make them available in a software as a service model. However, what I hear is that these SIEMs are typically just built on top of a public cloud provider's infrastructure, meaning they don't offer the automatic scaling and other cloud native capabilities, which are truly very, very important. And this all has made these traditional SIEM tools quite expensive to own and operate, even requiring organizations to commit upfront and thereby incur high costs for infrastructure maintenance and even data ingestion. On the other hand, with a cloud-native SIEM solution like Azure Sentinel, there are no upfront costs. You pay for what you use, providing you a cost-effective SIEM solution. And there are many cases where you would like to combine the security data you have with information that you may have either on premises or maybe from a completely different stack. And this ease of integration with telemetry sources and with other data sources is really key to a SIEM success. It's crucial to the success of SIEM there. And what I often hear from security operation teams is they spend too much time and too much effort on connecting data sources and maintaining event flows. And by doing so, they reduce the time they're able to spend delivering true security value. And I believe this to be another reason as to why we should be looking to leverage the cloud environment to offer a straightforward way of connecting to data sources. Ideally, this should be done by abstracting servers, networks, and offering a serverless connection, if you would like, something like a service-based connector. For example, with just a few clicks, you can connect your SIEM solution to commonly used services by your users, such as Office 365 or maybe another cloud service, and start to receive events almost immediately. By leveraging the power of the cloud in connecting data sources, we also don't need to worry about connectivity health or maybe an event spike, because we're using that elasticity and the scale that the public cloud infrastructure provides us with. And then integrating directly with the cyber threat intelligence sources. So this information really is all about empowering the SOC teams to understand what are the threats that are out there and what are the techniques, tactics, and procedures used by potential cyber attackers. So by integrating directly with cyber threat intelligence sources such as Microsoft Intelligence Security Graph or others, helps increase the likelihood of detecting these advanced cyber threats by leveraging not only data sources from Microsoft, but they can also be from partners. And I believe there is no one that would dispute that communities, especially on this call, make more possible, which is why we should look at a community-based approach where people can share best practices and they can even enhance existing machine learning models. And with regards to machine learning and AI, we need to make sure we include advanced anomaly detection using these algorithms. This is really important because it empowers companies and SOC teams that might not have their own data scientists working for them. As mentioned, security skills are in short supply. We see and hear the same, if not even more, for data science skills, which is why security analysts face a huge burden of triaging an incident or a potential attack, as they not only need to sift through a sea of alerts, but they also need to correlate alerts from different products manually or by using a traditional correlation engine. This is why we need a scalable machine learning algorithm that can correlate a large number of low fidelity alerts to few high fidelity alerts or security incidences. And another reason why we should be looking to leverage ML technologies is to help us quickly get value from large amounts of security data that we're ingesting and help us connect the dots for us, which in turn helps reduce noise drastically and alert fatigue. What we have seen in Microsoft is an overall reduction of up to 90% in alert fatigue with early adopters. And with regards to investigating an incident, what we see, for example, in Azure Sentinel is that an incident can include one or multiple alerts. An incident contains a combination of the relevant evidence that can be used for further investigation. And we even have a graphical and AI powered investigation, which helps us reduce the time it takes to understand the full scope and the attack of an attack, which we can see on this slide here. It can also be used to visualize a cyber attack unfolding and even take quick action in the same dashboard. Now, while detecting cyber attacks is only half of the battle, security teams, I believe, are also struggling to follow up on the volume of alerts. The sheer number and volume of alerts is such that the available SOC personnel are simply being overwhelmed, which is why too often this results in situations where too many alerts cannot simply be attended to, and this leaves the organization vulnerable to attacks that go unnoticed. And many, if not most, of these alerts have a recurring pattern, which can be addressed by specific and defined course of action, which can be automated to allow the security operations team to focus on what matters most, providing that true security value, that unique value inside of any organization. Which is why inside of Azure Sentinel, we have built a capability, again, leveraging that cloud native capabilities we have in Azure through Logic Apps that allows us to build and run orchestration workflows. With that being said, I thought I'd offer you a glimpse into how the cloud native next generation SIEM solution looks like. So let me switch gears and stop sharing the presentation and share my browser we have where I have an Azure a Sentinel demo environment. So when I log in, and Azure Sentinel is an implementation of what we just talked about. So a next generation cloud native security information event management system, or SIEM. So I can access it directly through a unified dashboard, which is part of the Azure portal. So after I logged on, authenticated that I have the right permissions, I'm able to see the dashboard. There's even the possibility to support role-based access control, meaning what we see is that usually security operations centers have different tiers. They might have two, depending, some might have three tiers of SOC analysts working in them. While the first tier is very, very alert focused, um, it doesn't provide a lot of touch points. Tier two um, are the more experienced SOC analysts that typically get alerts from tier one, which need to be looked more into, and tier three could be proactive investigation and hunting done across the estate by more senior colleagues. And that kind of a model can even be implemented here. So I could be logging in as either a SOC tier, a one analyst, maybe tier two, or maybe tier three, and depending on it, have permissions. Now, what I've done here is I've logged in as tier three. So I can see most of the capabilities, if not all. What I'm also able to do as part of the dashboard, I have a bird's eye perspective on everything security related that's going on in my organization. I can even filter it. For example, I can focus on just the last 24 hours, where I see the number of events that were collected, the number of alerts, and the number of incidences. So those high, rich in information incidences which were created by alerts, which can include one or many alerts. What I'm also able to see in the forms of these color-coded arrows is the trends compared to the previous interval. So in this case, we see that we, in the last 24 hours, have collected 2,000 more events compared to the previous period, and also 90 more alerts compared to the same. What I'm also able to see here as a SOC analyst are color-coded the events and alerts that were collected over time. And I can even drill down and focus on the specific one. Also, I have a map which, in case of potentially malicious network traffic, is able to provide me a localization of it. Should I maybe be an organization with several locations, this can also come very, very handy when looking for potential either data breaches or potential incidences. Now, we mentioned that telemetry is key to a success of a SIEM tool. So as part of Sentinel, I can go to data connectors. So let me just quickly select that. Where I see a list of data sources, I can bring into Sentinel through service-based connectors. So gone are the days where I needed to maintain event flows, and as a SOC analyst, gone are the days when I needed to actually spend a bulk of my time taking care that the event flows were running, they were maintained, and even maintaining the infrastructure. What I can do with the power of these connectors is, depending on the data sources that I would like to bring into Sentinel, which we can see are not only Microsoft, but also third party, I can select on one. For example, maybe syslog would be an interesting one if I can find it. And when selecting a connector, I'm also shown another blade with more information. When I open the connector page, I even get instructions on how can I bring this data into Sentinel and what I need to perform from a configuration point of view. Now, let me just quickly close this one because there are a lot more connectors I can leverage. Again, not only from Microsoft, but also from third party. Currently, in this demo environment, I have 62 to my disposal and more are coming. So this takes us back to what we were mentioning, which is very important for a SIEM solution, is to have that service-based abstraction in the form of a connector. So we can, after we connect, um, are relevant data sources, and we should actually be looking to bring in not only our general operational data into a SIEM, but also networking data. So think of layer 3, layer 4, data sources from our firewalls, for example, and even web application firewalls, and other server security relevant data that we might have, and even data from endpoints. When we bring that and more, we truly get the value of a SIEM, which is by some considered that single pane of glass that groups all security relevant events that are happening inside of an enterprise. Now, once we've selected which data sources we want to bring into Sentinel, I can go quickly to logs where I'm offered predefined queries done by if you remember when I mentioned that Microsoft's one of Microsoft's competitive advantages is also having more than 3,500 dedicated cybersecurity professionals. These cybersecurity professionals have gathered a lot of knowledge which I can also leverage here by having these queries either predefined, or I can also then always choose to write a new one. What I, however, want to check is after I've connected my relevant data sources, I can quickly go to logs. I can say, for example, one of the connected data sources is Azure Activity, which brings us that operational data from Microsoft's Azure platform. And by running it, I can see that I already have security alerts and events being populated. So theoretically, in just a matter of a couple of minutes, I can already bring data sources into Azure Sentinel and I can see that they're running. Now, once I've confirmed that the data sources are running, as an analyst, I would probably look to um, have an overview. What are the incidences that have happened since the last time I was in this dashboard? So let me quickly select incidences. This opens the blade with information about not only alerts, but again, the incidences, because alerts can be grouped using machine learning and other information into rich context, which we call then an incident. And I can even then adjust the time window in which I'm interested in seeing this. Let me, for this example, select the last 7 days, and I have a number of filters to my disposal. As a SOC analyst, I probably want to prioritize my work. So let me start by looking at what were the high and medium severity incidences that happened in the last 7 days. Here I can see I have more than a couple of to choose from. Let's select one to see what happens. So if I select, for example, maybe this would be a good one. So regardless which incident I select here, I selected this one because we see it has multiple alerts grouped into one incident. Once I've selected this, as a SOC analyst, I can assign it to myself here or maybe to a colleague on the team. I can change the status in being active, or if I've already looked into it and resolved it into close. And I can even, based on my findings, change the severity of it. If this is a test that's being performed, I might be willing to change it to informational. However, if I realize this could be part of a breach, I can also change it to high severity and even escalate it to an even senior colleague. Now, in addition to the description, which is something we can also define, I'm able, when I click the full details, I'm able to see all of the alerts that make up this incident. So I see we have 3 alerts that were grouped together in one incident. And what I want to do now is to show you also the graphical visualization as part of the investigation. So let me go ahead and click the investigate button. Here, even Sentinel gives me a couple of suggestions and messages what's new since the last time I joined. What we're able to see here is the graphical visualization of the investigation. I'm able as a SOC analyst to also leverage the timeline to understand what happened when, which entities were involved in it. I see the IP addresses, or in this case, the URL resources, which were involved in this incident, and the relevant alerts. What I can also do as a SOC analyst is I might be willing to understand more about this. So I want to troubleshoot this. I want to understand, is this maybe something that's could be a potential breach or potentially a bigger attack. So I can even interact with these resources and these alerts by going to one, selecting it, and even running queries in real time. So the options that are highlighted here are actually in the background. I can click on it and I can run queries on them. Now this one has 336 related alerts, so might open more than a couple of alerts on the page. So let me check the other ones. However, this, even if we select all of them, I can see how I'm able to get an even complete picture on what happened. And again, this option, when I hover over an entity, the options that are presented to me, that's Azure Sentinel in a very, very friendly way, offering me the possibility here. For example, we have the ability to maybe inquire about which hosts had this IP assigned to them. And when I select it, what's going to happen is in the background, Azure Sentinel is going to be performing a live query based on a language called Custom Query Language KQL in real time on a highly available storage where all that data is where all the data, better said, apologies, resides, which I brought into Sentinel through the connectors. Now, once I'm pleased that this was either something that was contained or maybe something that's already remediated, I can close the blade and I can change the severity to either low, informational, and I can even then change the status of this incident as being closed. Now, what else could I be looking to do as a SOC analyst? Once I've made sure that there are no attacks going on in the organization, and again, so what we showed is we looked at the dashboard, which provides us that bird eye perspective. Then we looked how easy it is to bring data sources into Sentinel and connect them. We also then looked into incidences. So what do those data sources tell us? What I might be interested in doing as a SOC analyst is also then to leverage my own logic and bring it into a SIEM solution. So when I click on analytics, I'm able to see what are the rules I already have here in place, which are running and which are active. I could also look to leverage existing templates where I don't need to make something from scratch. I can already leverage it if, for example, I have Microsoft sources connected to it. So for example, if we're using Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection, which got renamed into Microsoft Defender for Office 365, I can already leverage the rule templates. What I also can look to do is write my own logic. So my own analytics rules, which would correspond to the actual logic, how alerts and events, incidences are being triggered into Sentinel. So to give you a flavor for it, let me go ahead and select a new scheduled rule. So here I can say, for example, I'm going to be giving a name dependent on the rule logic I would like to be ran in Sentinel. So for example, I might just want to have a rule that triggers or creates an incident when a specific resource is deleted in Azure, such as when someone or when a VM is deleted. So let me just put here a brief description. What Azure Sentinel also provides is a mapping to the MITRE attack framework. So MITRE is an organization known for its innovative research in cybersecurity. So I might even be looking to map it to specific tactics here. For example, for our demo, I might just say that this is impact. The severity in question, this will again create that incident with the severity that we saw. I would like to keep it disabled for now. And when I click Nexus here, I can put in my logic. Now, I do have something already prepared, not to invest a lot of time, leveraging one of the data sources that we already brought into. So for the Azure Activity, I'm looking where an operation name is delete virtual machine and the status has been accepted. So this is the logic I would like to trigger when, or better, this is the logic I would like to run on the data that I brought into Sentinel, and then for it to create, for example, an alert or an incident. What I'm also able to do is, in order to provide the SOC analyst with that rich graphical investigation, I'm also able then to map the results that are being returned into specific entities. For example, I might be looking for accounts to map them into color. And when I add this, what's going to happen is you see Azure Sentinel is going to amend the query for me. So now when an incident is created, I'm able to return the data as specific entities that I can leverage in the investigations page. Now, there are much more options we can leverage here, how often a rule should be ran. In this case, it's going to, every 5 minutes, it's going to query. If I go back to minutes here, every 5 minutes, the rule is going to query the data from last 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, if VM is deleted, I will have either an alert or an incident created, depending on what I would like. Here, I can also specify the number of query results. So for example, if if more than 0 VMs are deleted, this would then apply for this specific rule. I can also go more into the specific incidences. Would I like an incident to be triggered? Would I like maybe alerts to be grouped? We saw one example when when an incident had 3 alerts, so we can also specify that here. And what we can also do is an automated response. So this is all around this security orchestration and automation response, where we're able through cloud native integration with Logic App, which is a solution we can look as that provides us with that workflow capability, we can define it here. And once our rule is triggered, we can automatically then call this one or more playbooks. Now, I'm not going to do this here because there are a couple of other things that I would like to show you inside of it, which from a SOC analyst perspective could be very, very valuable. Obviously, one is what we just touched upon are the different playbooks that we can almost through a drag and drop interface create and then also interact with different systems. For example, in our example here, when a VM was deleted, we could trigger a playbook that's gonna post message into either a Slack or a Teams channel of the security operations analyst team and ask, was that done by purpose or not? If it was on purpose, then we might go and go ahead and close the incident. If not, we can then kick off another process. What we also covered is the importance of having rich visualizations, not only to showcase anomalies, but also to leverage the data sources we have connected. So if I click on workbooks, I'm able to see more than 65 workbooks which are provided that I have for the different, depending on the different data source. So if I go ahead, for example, and I'm not sure if my user has access to all of them, maybe for AWS. If we click on AWS, a workbook from a third party, a workbook that better said visualizes data from a third party cloud source, I also see if I have the required data type here. Green check means good. Then I can either view the template or the save workbook. So hopefully the demo gods are with me today. Thank you. So we see the data visualized and we see that my user has access to this workbook in question. And we can do this not only for one, but for several. And it's also possible to create a custom workbook that maybe visualizes in one workbook data from different data sources, depending on what someone might have in use in their organization. What we also see is very, very important for SOC analysts is that depending on the maturity of the company, is to have the ability to proactively hunt for either anomalies or to detect should something, if you like, fishy is happening, which is why here, again, we can leverage the work done by those 3,500 cybersecurity dedicated professionals that Microsoft has that already went ahead and provided us with pre-built queries. We can obviously using KQL always also create our own query, or we can already leverage one that we have here by running it and also by viewing the results, which hopefully I have permissions and I see here in real time. I hope this helps provide a glimpse into Azure Sentinel. And before I switch gears and go back into presentation, I want to emphasize that communities make more possible, which is why inside of Azure Sentinel, inside of the portal, we also have a dedicated section for community. Now, this community is also facilitated by the Azure Sentinel product group, and it's a very, very vibrant and active community. And where you can not only then contribute in terms of workbooks, maybe your own hunting queries, analytics tools, but also help and leverage the work from others. When we think, for example, of machine learning, there is a dedicated section called Notebooks with machine learning algorithms provided by Microsoft's dedicated cybersecurity researchers. Apologies. So I'm able to select here a notebook, and without even being a data science researcher or a data scientist, I'm able to launch that notebook. I see the description here. It facilitates and empowers me to understand what this notebook is all about. And a notebook, we can also see it as a machine learning algorithm. And if I also have the relevant data sources. Now I see here it also has a couple of categories. I have a couple for getting started notebooks. I have a couple which can be used for hunting as well, and then also for the investigation. So I don't need to be a data scientist to leverage ML and machine learning here and those algorithms in form of notebooks. I'm able to do it even as a SOC analyst who doesn't maybe have an understanding of data science by leveraging the work done by Microsoft's dedicated cybersecurity professionals, which made it for me available as notebooks here. With that being said, let me switch gears and go back to our presentation. The actions I want to leave you here today is, in case you're interested, I thought I offer a glimpse in how you can get started on this journey as soon as you can. And with that, I would like to thank you for having me on. Thank you for your attention. That's the end of my prepared remarks for today, and we're going to have a Q&A now.
Yeah, great session, Bojan. Thank you so much. And before we jump to the Q&A, for the ones that join later on this session, I would kindly ask you to just register to this session so you can access relevant materials related to the session. So you can scan the QR code on the screen, or even you can use the link aka.ms. I put the link in the chat. So, and in the meantime, we have also, I'm going to drop a link on the chat for to allow you to enable you to provide feedback about this session. So feel free to just provide the feedback for us so we can improve the sessions and improve the quality. So we have a few questions here for you. The first one, I think you don't need to jump to the demo screen, so to the Azure portal, but Mauricio is asking if Salesforce connector is available as well on Sentinel.
Great question, Maurizio. We don't have it as part of the connectors blade. What I see being leveraged is through a solution called Microsoft Cloud App Security. That's a cloud application security broker solution, which is able then to capture security related information from a cloud application such as Salesforce. So I see that being leveraged. What I also see being leveraged is Azure Sentinel supports an API call. So it's possible to bring in data into the container, if you would like, that Azure Sentinel uses to store its data through an API.
Okay, so in this case, you would build something custom to just pull the data from any source and push via the API to Sentinel container, right?
With the partners I work with, I like sharing with them like a sequence that I would go through. The first would be if the specific data source in question, is it part of the connectors blade? If yes, I would leverage the connector. If not, does it maybe support syslog or Ceph as a log format in which it stores its data? If yes, I can then leverage the Ceph and or the syslog connector, which is also part of the connectors blade. The third would be if the appliance in question supports API or REST API calls. If so, I can then leverage that. That would be my third go-to option. And the fourth one would be then custom connectors, which can seem a little bit complex at first, but we do provide extensive guidance around it. Now, for Salesforce in specific, as I believe it's a cloud application, and for cloud applications, Microsoft has a cloud application security broker called Microsoft Cloud App Security. And that broker, that solution, I should better say, is able to then capture the security relevant information, and the Microsoft Cloud App Security solution does have a connector with Sentinel. So I could then leverage that solution to bring security relevant data from Salesforce, a cloud application, into MCAS, and from MCAS into Sentinel. So
Okay.
that outlines all the options that you have to your disposal. A very, very wide net, so you can catch almost everything with it.
That's the way. That's the way. I think we have our answer anyway. Yes. Also, we have Mitun. Okay, and Mitun is basically asking where's when you were showing the alert rules. He is asking if those rules are meant only for querying only, or if they can be applied for mitigation and actions.
That's a great question. The way KQL is structured, it's a read only. What I mean by it is the queries are going to be executed, and I'm going to get a read-only result of them. So I wouldn't be looking through KQL to make any kind of mitigation or action. That would be something I, as an analyst, can then do either for Azure Sentinel or maybe if I'm leveraging another dashboard altogether.
All right, I think that's it. We have everything, right? I think no more questions anyway. So we are happy to close. I would kindly ask you to just to share with you to register to the next session that we are going to have. I'm going to put the link in the chats. So the next session will be next week on 14th. And again, Bojan will talk about the security of your infrastructure as a service and platform as a service workloads on Azure.
Very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much for giving me the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
And
so
take
much,
care.
everyone.
Take
And
care, everybody.
yeah, take care and thank you so much. And thank you, Bojan. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.